Chapter 5 deals with statistical reasoning. 5.1 is an introduction to statistics and review of some of the topics you should have covered in grade 10. First, I'd ask the students have a look at the YouTube link there. I'll link this onto our homework webpage. And it's a rap song which introduces measures of central tendency for students. But I'll just hit on some of the big topics that you should remember. There are three measures of central tendencies. The first is mean. Now, mean is what you sometimes refer to as average. Really, there are three averages, and they're mean, median, and mode. And we'll refer back to, so when we say average now, we're going to refer to one of these. And if we want to add up all the scores and to get what you would have called an average, well, really, we're going to be talking about mean now. So let's say we had done a food drive here at school, and these were number of food items brought in by 5 different classes. So we may ask, well, what's the average donations out of these classes? So you add 8 plus 12 plus 3 plus 10 plus 7, 40 items brought in among 5 classes. So on average, there are 8 items per class brought in. So that again is the mean. The mean is always useful in describing data, and we'll get into different cases throughout the chapter where you would use mean, median, or mode. Median is if you had taken all the data and written it in ascending order. So ascending order is from least to greatest. So we've taken the data we had here, so 3 food items from one homeroom, 7 from another, 8, 10, and 12. And median will be the middle number. And in this case, the middle number is 8. So you have 2 on either side. Now, not all cases you're going to have a single middle number. So let's say we have 3 items in one class, 7, 8, and there was another class in which we had gotten 9, 10, and 12. So when we look to find the median now, and you keep taking one number off each side at a time, take one from here, one from there, you would find there are 2 middle numbers. So what you have to do is to find the mean of those 2 numbers. So 8 plus 9 and divide it by 2, because there are 2 numbers there, which would be 17 divided by 2, or 8.5. Mode will be a most common item. So let's say this food drive, what was the most common food item brought in? We could determine that. Another example, if we'd done a survey in the class and asked everyone what was their favorite food, or most common cell phone in the school. So we couldn't find the median number. Mean would be impossible to find. So mode, again, you're looking for the most common item. One term mentioned in your textbook that you have to be familiar with is dispersion. Now, this is also known as range. And dispersion is the difference in the data from the lowest number to the highest number. So if we look at our data here, we had as low as 3 food items brought in one homeroom, up to as high as 12. So the range or dispersion will be 12, subtract 3, 9. So there's a difference of 9 items brought in from one class to another. Now, some cases, the dispersion could be 0 if every class was told to bring in 5 items. So every class brought in 5, then there will be no dispersion because there is no difference in the numbers. Okay, this is an example from your textbook on page 239. And we'll work through this one. You're asked to construct a graph of the average monthly temperature in Langley, British Columbia, and Windsor, Ontario. Now, we could construct this on paper, or we could do so in Microsoft Excel. And to do that in Excel, a across one row, we will put the names of the months. Next row, we'll put the temperatures for one of the cities. And then the last row, we'll put the temperature for the other city. And to produce a graph, I click the lower corner, highlight and go across, selecting all my cells. Click Insert. And there's different types of graphs we can produce, and you can experiment with that, see which one you like. Some will work for this, others won't. But we're going to choose a line graph, and we're going to do a 3D line graph. Oh, sorry, just a line graph with markers. And what we get produced here now is a graph, and it identifies our two cities, Langley, BC in blue, and Windsor, Ontario in red. If you want to add a little more detail to the graph, you can. We haven't labeled our axes here. So to do that, just click the graph, the Layout tab, and Axis Titles. So here, put a title below, and I could put a title in there, and it will be months of the year. And if I wanted titles for the vertical, I could put my title in here. So I'm going to erase, and this will be average daily temperature. And let's say this was in Celsius. And here, months. Now if we look back to our questions, we had answered question 1, which was to produce a graph. Question B, determine the range, mean, and median for the average daily temperatures in the two cities. So for the first city, our range, we have to look for the lowest number, which, if we look here, will be 2.2. And look for our highest number. Oops. 17. So we get our range. So for A, range 17, subtract 2.2. 14.8 degrees Celsius. So that's the difference in average temperatures between January and August. The mean, now to find mean, we know we have to add up all the scores and divide by the number of scores that are there. Well, I can use Excel to quickly do that for me. I can highlight cells that contain the numbers I want, and under formulas and auto sum, I can pick average. Now we know it's called mean, but again, it's sometimes referred to as average. And my answer here is 9.41 or 9.42. Now because our question contains only one decimal point, we'll round our answer to 9.4. So here, mean is 9.4. And the median, we have to write all the numbers in ascending order and then pick the middle number. Okay, I've written the numbers out in ascending order for both cities. So now we'll find our median number, or median temperature in this case. So I start on each end and take one number off at a time. Now in this case I'm left with 2. So I have to add these together and divide by 2. So I have to find the mean. So for median again, 8.6, and 9.8, and I would divide by 2. 8.6, 9.8, 18.4, divide by 2, and my median temperature is 9.2 degrees Celsius. So I found the range, median, mean, and median for the first city. So if I do it for the next city, same steps. First I'm going to find my range, and this is for Windsor, Ontario. Range is difference between the highest number and lowest number. So 22.7, start my highest number, subtract my lowest, so I'm subtracting a negative. And when you subtract a negative, remember to change it to a positive. And it should be 27.2 degrees Celsius. So that's the difference from the lowest temperature in a month to the highest temperature in a month. There's a 27 degree 0.2 range. Now to find the mean, remember add up all your scores and divide by the number of scores that are there. Or I would do the same steps here. I'll highlight all my cells. On the formulas, auto sum, I'll change that to average, which again we refer to as mean. And 9.44. Now I'll round that to one decimal place to 9.4. Now we also need to find our median temperature. So same steps, take one off each side. And now again I'm left with 2 in the middle, as we should expect. So median, 8.2 plus 11.0 divided by 2, or 19.2 divided by 2, or 9.6 degrees Celsius. Now we'll write these out so we make a little more sense of these together. So we have Langley, we looked at the range, the mean, and the median. And we also have Windsor. The range for Langley was 14.8 degrees, whereas the range for Windsor, Ontario was 27.2 degrees. The mean temperatures are almost the same, and the median temperatures 9.2 and 9.4. So if you were to look just at the mean and median, you wouldn't see much difference in the two cities. But it's the range that is telling you the biggest difference. And here. So one, there's a temperature variance of 27 degrees, and to the other one, a temperature of 14.8 degrees. Now to include our graph, because our graph can provide more detail for us. We will copy our graph. And if you're doing this at home, you can choose to use Microsoft Excel, or you have to do it by hand, paper and pencil. As we're looking at the graph, we can see that for Windsor, Ontario, there's definitely a bigger range in the temperature differences. And I'll just set this in place. So we look here, we can see from highest to lowest the amount of range that we have, and this one, highest to lowest the amount of range that we have. So it's definitely a large range in temperature. So from this, you need to take away that it's useful to look at more than one type of central tendency. You should look at all three, and analyzing a graph can help you pick out patterns or differences between more than one set of data or information. So the key ideas that you need to know: measures of central tendency, mean, median, mode are not always enough to represent or compare sets of data, and you can draw inferences from numerical data by examining how the data is distributed around the mean or median. Alright, that takes care of this lesson, and we will be assigned questions on the homework site.